We are only 2/3 of the way done with the Israel conference today. We've been entertained since early morning, and now we're taking it out to the next level, where we'll be enjoying a whole series of entertainment media technologies from here through the end of the day. We're very excited because today we've had the pleasure of having the Israel conference be a home to so many different technologies that have been coming out of Israel. And in that capacity, when we listen to anything, when we watch something on a device, or when we hear somebody else's ringtone happening, what comes to mind usually is, gee, that's cool technology. But what we're going to learn about this afternoon is that much of that cool technology is coming straight out of the tiny country of Israel. And how many of you know that Israel has less than 7 million people in it and is producing the technology that changes our behavior on a daily basis? It's an amazing fact. One of the facts that we came across is that out of every 100,000 people in Israel, 145 of them are engineers. That's a huge statistic. It's unusually skewed, but I think because of that, we get very excellent technology. And so this afternoon, we're going to be engaged with two things. One is we're going to have a very 5-minute fast and cool, and then we're going into our panel. I'm going to ask our panel to join us on the dais first. And I'd like to introduce them as they come up. We have, well, I was going to start with Ishar Shai from Canaan Partners, who will be moderating this panel. We have Sharon Rector from Babyfreshtv, which is something quite special whether or not you have babies. You're going to want to hear about this Uber entrepreneur. We have Ariel Galinsky from LiveU, which, by the way, is recording this today. As you can see in the back, we're streaming it with the help of LiveU on live stream, and you can see it on our website at theisraelconference.org. And just a few seconds ago, someone showed me a text message from a friend of theirs in Tel Aviv who said, "I'm watching the Israel conference as it happens." And that's pretty exciting for us. We have Mayor Friedlander, who will be doing a live and cool, and we have Andy Abramson from Vringo, which you'll want on your cell phone immediately following this panel. So with that, we're going to take a quick 5 minutes and get a tour of Icon Technologies and then jump into the great field of things that go click, things that make noise, things that have visual stimulation, and things that you need to have on your device.
Just before I start, for those of you who know me, Ron, can you please hold these so I speak slowly and be on time? Thank you. Good. 420. So, a question before I start. How many of you have someone in a home with a mobile device like iPhone or netbook or notebook? Someone in the house. Okay, don't you have almost everyone? How many of you in your house, when you're sitting with the family in the living room and watching television or enjoying something on a stereo system, one of the family members in using one of these devices is doing something else, doing ICQ, doing notebook, email? All right, it's about 50%. The average apparently is about 70% of the people, and in youth people, teenagers, and up to age 24, it's almost 90% of the people doing something in what we call in parallel. And I'm going to talk about this parallel view in a few moments. So what we do at Icon, we develop a portable application that runs on any of those devices I mentioned before, anything that has a pointable screen, touchable, or mouse, or anything, a pointing device. And I'd say 3.5 inches and up to 10 inches. And let me press here. So what we do is we're trying to take some of what I call the meta experience from the big screen, which clutters the big screen with many not really entertainment information on the big screen, like Flickr, and some of it might be personal, some of it might be, I don't know, too difficult to search. And instead of having a Apple TV-like kind of application, this is a Apple TV YouTube search for content, separate it into a parallel screen and use one of those small devices and having the entire experience on one of these screens. How this is done? We defined, by the way, with the help of Omer, where are you? No Omer. All right. So we, with the help of a company named Moxie, we defined a what we call predefined workflow, and after working on dozens of use case scenarios in a home of people how to use and watch and enjoy entertainment, television, but not only television, pictures, audio, anything. And you can see here that the main screen is what we call the pick, plug, and play screen. And users, when they get the first system, they get a pick, plug, and play screen. They have a pick list, where in the pick list they have all the content that they know that they want to play, or friends recommended them to play, or the service provider said, hey, this is something that I want you to play. And in the play area, they have automatically discovered all the devices that are connected in the house. And users, and we'll show it later on, can just simply pick a content and plug it into a playback device and then control it. So it's a kind of an endless experience with your entertainment devices and entertainment information without distracting. Once you got this content, I mean, how do you get more content or more devices? You can, if you're a more advanced user, you can navigate and discover more devices or personalize them. If you even more advanced user, you can search for content, you can get search results, you can get search results from different sources, and these sources, again, are automatically being discovered by the system. You can preview or watch locally, or put in the plug in the pick area, or you can go back and search again, and again put in the pick area, and then go and enjoy eventually again with a pick, plug, and play screen. So it's all very, very smooth experience that is good for almost any consumer, make it my mother or my daughter, which are probably the two extremes in the way people consume media in a home. In a bit more close up, you just pick something, plug it, you can move it from one device to another device, or like here, just plug it in one place. It will start immediately playing. I mean, I was restricted to have slides only, so this is what we have. Or move it. Nope. Something stopped here. Let's move. Anyways, so play it in any device, here we go. Search in different sources, see results, and this is the kind of experience a user gets through navigation all the time in a predefined process that, I see it over there, you don't have to do it, I have one. And navigates over different content. So I think this is it. At the end of the day, pick, plug, and play, icon.
Thank you, Meir. So, good afternoon. We are kind of in an awkward position. Our panel is about 3 hours after lunch and 2 hours before the game. So we are going to try to make the best use of your time. Thank you for staying. And you know, when we made our preparations for this panel, we sort of committed to try to make it as interesting as we could. This also depends on you, so please do engage with us, ask questions, comment, disagree with us. We agreed in between us to also try to disagree on some of the issues we are going to discuss. So, you know, our panel's name is Things That Go Click, and this is a good representation of the topics we want to discuss today. Our panelists represent exciting companies in an area that we in the VC world call the digital media area, which is a revolution that is still ongoing. It's still happening. It covers all kinds of areas, market segments, technologies, and so on. But this is an area that is really moving fast, creating new business models, new technologies, new ways to conduct and transform our lives, and a pretty exciting area for investments as well. A few words about us, Canaan Partners. We are a global venture capital firm, have been around for about 22 years. We manage about $3 billion, and we do this from offices in 3 countries, in India, in Israel, and East and West Coast of the United States. About 1/3 of our investments go to pharma and medical devices investments, and 2/3 go into the broad area of information technology, out of which we really have placed a focus on digital media. We actually looked back on our investments in the last 5 years, and we identified about $200 million that we have invested in digital media companies. That represents about 43% of our investments in terms of number of investments. And along with those numbers, we also committed to about twice those numbers of dollars in terms of future allocation for those companies that we've already invested in. And those of you who have been around long enough to remember names like Commerce One, where we were the first lead investor, and DoubleClick, where we were again the first investor, and Match.com, and fast forward to very exciting companies where we are investors today, the Active Network, Zusk, Associated Content, the Lending Club, Tremor Media, and some exciting Israeli companies, PrimeSense, Entrig, Pier 39, and LiveView here on stage. So with that short introduction about the Canaan Partners, I would like to ask each of our panelists, and Mary, you will have to commit to those 60 seconds of an elevator pitch, because, you know, when we said that we are going to introduce ourselves, we said short, to the point. So you have a few minutes to think about how you present your company in 60 seconds. I'll go first to Andy. I'm going to just read this here. Andy Abramson, you are a veteran of the media. This is what it says over here. Running marketing and public relations for many years in various industries. You have experience in all kinds of facets of marketing and corporate communication, and you are going to tell us about Veringo. Andy, please go ahead.
So if we had an Elmo, I'd be able to show you how my phone rings. My phone rings like that. And basically, when it rings, I get video. And depending who's calling me, I can tell who they are based on their Ringo. Ringo's a video ringtone. And video ringtones are the next generation of personalization. Ringo's been around a little over 3 years, started by John Medved, who many of you in the room may know from his days as a VC with Israeli seed partners. Ringo has been successful in striking relationships with mobile operators in various countries around the world, at working with licensed content producers, Hollywood studios, music labels, and now we're moving into advertisers. As a result, video ringtones allow a person to personalize their phone and really customize it the way they want to be, because we all know it's about them.
Thank you. That was good. Less than 2 minutes. He deserves an applause. Thank you. And Ariel. Let's see. Ariel is a Senior Vice President for Business Development for LiveView. Ariel is a veteran of many Israeli, US startups, I should say maybe US-Israeli startups, so you know all about some of the issues we are going to discuss today. Please tell us a little bit about LiveView.
So LiveView is about democratization of live transmission. Currently, when we think about live transmission, we usually think about very large events. So it is about the Laker games tonight, it's about the Olympics, it's about large political events. The main reason for that is the very expensive cost related to satellite technology that is required for that type of broadcast, which requires to have a very large audience to underline this type of transmissions. With us, we came up with a cellular-based alternative that provides a professional-grade transmission that enables anybody, anytime, to go live. And so, for example, Macy's recently decided that the extreme makeover shows over CBS, it's really their business, because Macy's knows something about fashion and makeovers. And so we can all watch a live transmission of makeovers over Macy's website, and this is being broadcasted live with our technology. In essence, they find a way to connect between their customers and products and brands in a completely new way. Similarly, the Detroit Free Press, one of the largest newspapers in the nation, have been recently transmitting live hyper-local politics event to the Detroit area. Soon they will do the same with local sports, hopefully finding a new way to define themselves as a media company online. We also work with lots of traditional TV broadcasters that for them the value proposition is about cutting costs, very popular these days, reducing the cost of satellite transmission, but also enabling them to transmit from locations that are very challenging for satellites, so such as the Obama train moving from Philadelphia to DC, or more recently from within the demonstration of the G20 meetings or the Notre Dame University speech of Obama.
Thank you, Ariel. Well, you know what? You deserve an applause. Thank you. Sharon, founder and executive vice president of Babyfreshtv. You are going to tell us about the company, but a few words about you. It says here that you have a broad background in TV programming, and recently you served as a vice president and head of operations for the Israeli network. Please tell us a little bit about Babyfreshtv.
Hi, thank you for having me. Babyfreshtv is the world's leading TV channel for babies. We deliver high-quality content that we produce, believe it or not, in Los Angeles and in Tachana Merkazit Tel Aviv. And we deliver it via satellites all over the world to 120 million homes, also going from Rosh Hashanah, because Israel is the only place in the world where one satellite can look over 5 continents. Babyfreshtv covers 89% of the American market, being the monopoly in children's programming. And today we find new and interesting ways to deliver our content, our huge library. We deliver via 24/7 channel, VOD, programming blocks, DVDs, and we've just launched our first 24/7 cellular TV network for babies in Singapore.
Wow. And Meir, we are going back to you, so let's see. You didn't tell us about your background, but you are a digital home and interactive TV veteran. You were CEO and founder of Vsoft, executive VP at CMBI and Amdocs and digital equipment. You're an experienced and a pioneer of IPTV, VOD, and networked PVR. Wow. Can you tell us in 60 seconds about Icon?
Okay, so, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to what you just saw, a few words about the company. We are launching the product at the end of this month through different app stores, first stage. We're already discussing with many CE vendors, connected to CE vendors to distribute the product through their channels, like Best Buy or Fry's or whatever. And early discussions with both content owners and service providers. The main thing about the product is once you split the view into this parallel screen, you create many revenue opportunities that are not there when you fight for the big screen real estate. So almost everyone likes us.
So thank you all for the crisp introductions. And before I address a question to you, just a quick question to the audience here. How many of you are working today for companies that have been affected by the global economy crisis? Just a few. How many of you work for companies that have not been affected at all? Okay, and some of you are not working, I guess. So, back to the panelists. Can you please tell us how are you dealing with the global economy? And let's not keep this in a very general, high level. Give us an example of where your business has been directly affected. And we know that you all work for small companies, so put aside the startup factor. Just tell us one specific example of where your company has been affected and how are you going about dealing with this crisis, please.
Ringo, which for an Israeli company is always hard. We're an international company with offices in both Jerusalem and New York. So we had to make some cuts. And when a company is more like a family, that's very hard. How are we dealing with that? Very hardly, but we're dealing with it. We've expanded responsibilities across the team. We've had a change in how meetings are run. Because of the time differences, when you think about a company that deals with entertainment, they're dealing with the West Coast, the 10-hour time difference, the constant shifting. So people are dividing up roles. Different people are running meetings. Different people are taking on different roles in order to keep things going, in order to weather the storm. And this is happening while we're growing. But
did you have to make a decision about cutting off some of the activities, giving up a market segment, making some painful decisions about not only letting people go, but also about focusing or letting other business segments just go away?
It is about focus, but it's also about making sure that you're staying, true to your virtue and true to your goal and staying on track, planning your work and working your plan. Israelis work hard. The U.S. team works very hard. With a 7-hour time difference from New York to Jerusalem, it means late night phone calls, early morning phone calls. And John and I, 10-hour time difference, we're on Skype morning, noon, and night, and catching each other, in motion. We may not be in the same time zone at any time. I might be in Europe and he could be on the West Coast. So it is important to recognize that you just have to work more and not look at the clock and say up at 6 o'clock, time to stop.
Good, please, Sharon. Just before you go, if anybody else here in the audience wants to share with us an example of how your company is dealing with the current crisis, please be prepared because we are going to ask Sharon first.
Well, I completely agree. We also work harder and had to postpone some projects that we were really looking forward to in terms of growth. We were very fortunate, unlike the traditional media industry where it takes a TV channel about 7 years to become cash flow positive. We did it in 2 years, and today for us it's all about staying profitable. We will give up some projects, but we will only do things that keep us profitable, because at this time and age we count on ourselves only. And that sometimes means that we lose market share in certain markets. We won't take a losing deal at this point. And that's been very significant for us, and I think we were still able to demonstrate growth. We've just launched our channel in Singapore, Spain, Germany, Slovenia, and Portugal, and also launched a mass market DVD business by really working harder and only doing profitable deals.
Good. Keeping profitability in mind. Any comments from the audience? So just before we go to the next topic, Pierre, could you possibly put that video on? I want us to, if this works, to watch a short video segment for a moment, and there's a question coming after it, but please do enjoy this video with us.
Traveling this year, but when you're in a car stuck in traffic, that doesn't much matter, does it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even so, even with the drop, some 41 million Americans are going to be on the move over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And we've got a special weapon to help us follow the traffic situation. This is the view from what's called Live View. An NBC technician is driving around the New York City area. Multiple cell phone modems send a video signal back to us, even while moving at highway speeds. And right now, technician Joe DePrima has just gone through the Queens Midtown Tunnel. He is in Manhattan and heading to the heart of Midtown. We'll continue to monitor Joe's progress and keep track of all the trouble spots he runs into in the New York City area. Fun technology.
What's that? Oh, I guess the driver was not the one that was taking the video shots. Thank you for asking. So, in addition to this segment, we have seen live view segments from Obama's inauguration train from Philadelphia to Washington. Actually, live view technology let NBC be the only network that could actually transmit live from that train. And the live view devices are now being used by international broadcasters for historical transmissions like the Pope's recent visit in Israel, and other such interesting occasions. And my question to you is, not to you, Ariel, but to all of you, is how do you create an Israeli company that really creates a buzz around it? We are very well known in Israel for creating great technologies, for knowing the bits and bytes of how to create a great, complex product, and technology, but we are not so well known in the world for creating big marketing programs, big marketing campaigns, and just creating companies that have a buzz around them. And we've just seen a good example to this, but I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about how to create a buzz, how to create a company that clicks, and especially given today's times. And I think that each of your companies does represent some kind of a buzz in the world around you. So why don't we start with you, Andy, because Viringo definitely does create a buzz and does click.
Well, the first thing is stop behaving like an Israeli company and behave like a company from either Europe or the US, and really work on your branding. A lot of companies, we've seen over time, a lot of companies just have very poor branding, and they put all their time and energy into the science side. I mean, the most successful company, one of the most successful companies out of Israel was probably ICQ, which Yossi started, and it was successful despite not marketing. The marketing was itself word of mouth. But there was no, gorgeous, pretty brand, but it was successful. But nowadays, branding is very important. So having a good look, having a good story. Everything lives in the body of a story. And a lot of companies come out of Israel with, we've got great technology. But that's all they have. And they don't have a story to tell. And so that needs to be developed. And the story needs to develop into the positioning of the company against who they're competing and why it's better. So it has true market differentiation. And that story needs to be told through all the messaging. And it needs to be articulated over and over, but it also needs to be a pretty brand. A lot of the Israeli brands that we look at are not pretty. They're very hard. The edges are hard, the colors are hard, and you can only do so much blue and white. And you can only play so much with milk and honey. So at the end of the day, there needs to be a more worldwide view, because the Israeli technology companies are looked upon as being the very best. And you should all give yourselves a pat on the back. You do develop better technology that's more stable and works the first time than a lot of other countries do per capita. So when you look at it, the branding, if you could put a better package around it, you're going to end up being far more successful than the competitors who do a slicker job. And you're not alone. A lot of the Asian countries also have very poor branding, but they're catching up and moving very fast. The rising tigers out of Korea and Taiwan have quickly caught on. Look at what Samsung has done to their brand in the last 3 or 4 years coming out of Korea. So I would say that from a marketing perspective, Israeli companies, A+ on technology, A+ on drive, A+ on perseverance, but you're not going to get that A+ from me as the marketing person on your branding.
Thank you, Andy. Ariel?
I think that I would agree with many of your comments, but I think it has to be qualified also depending on the stage of the life of the organization and the target market. In our case, we're making our first step in the market, and we've made a decision that for the time being, we are a technology enabling company. So similar to the Intel inside, we are the live view inside of other companies that would touch the consumer.
So was this because you didn't believe that an Israeli company could really brand itself as a network premium service product, or this was just the business model that dictated that strategy?
No, I think there is a challenge there that I don't know that as an organization we were ready to assume. It could be that this is too much for us at this point in time to chew. And so we decided to, first of all, concentrate on what is our strength, which is, in fact, telecom, and provide the best possible uplink that we can to people that can use it and touch the consumer. In the future, we may make a decision to get closer to the consumer, starting with prosumers, and then eventually getting to a product that is with more consumer appeal. But we're not there yet. We're making our first step, and for us it was important to identify leaders in our industry and have them put our product in their hand and have them use it and benefit from it, and this way sort of create the buzz within that industry and then take it from there.
Thank you. Sharon? Oh, come on. Say that again.
It's really hard for us to understand and acknowledge that we do not know them. For me, it was very hard. And we currently work in 30 different markets. And in each market, we hire local PR and marketing. We don't know best. And I wouldn't even say that the American experts know best in France. It's very, very different. And we've won awards for
So maybe you also have the perspective. You sit on the board of non-Israeli companies. You have seen enough Israeli companies. You have seen them all. Can we really create market-oriented, marketing-driven companies out of Israel?
I don't know. I mean, we're trying to, but we're using local sources here. Again, I feel like I'm too much technology. I'm too much into technology, and I need help in marketing, and I think the entire company needs help. And we try to do the same thing as Ariel. We try to leverage on and piggyback on partners, and identify the right winners and piggyback on them. And I think part of the successful Israeli companies, and Checkpoint is here all over, but I remember the days where Sun helped them a lot penetrate the market. And we try to do the same with service providers and content owners and C vendors, and try to use them as a vehicle to get into market.
I have many questions, but let's just see if anybody else here wants to raise your hand and ask us questions. Good. So that gives me the stage. So, yeah, go ahead.
See, one of the companies in our area that is doing a great job using I think today's tools is a company named Boxy in the East Coast, and then you see the guy like Avner, the CEO, and the way they use tweeting and Facebooking and all over. And I think this is something in our industry at least we're trying to do as well. I mean, our American VP marketing, this is exactly the direction that they try to push also direct to consumer through all those tools.
So we spoke about some of the allocation of resources, technology out of Israel, marketing, business development, sales out of here, or other market market segments or geographies. Just before I continue, how many of you here in the audience are entrepreneurs? Wow. How many are investors? Don't be shy, come on. Okay. How many of you will be establishing a new company within, say, the next 5 years? How many of you have established a company over the last 3 years? Well, that's quite impressive. So let's talk about challenges, because some of the people here, I'm assuming, will be making again that connection of an Israeli company with a US company and vice versa. Talk to us a little bit about the challenges, and we have heard some of them before. Give us an example of a challenge or two, and then give us the solution. How did your company go about making or providing a solution to a problem that is unique to an Israeli-American company? Please, Andy.
Finding good talent, especially in product management, project management, marketing management.
That is in Israel or here?
I think it's becoming more and more universal. Definitely in Israel, finding product managers, marketing managers, very hard. Managers, I think it's easy to find sales and business development people. Because selling is selling in any part of the world. You got to have the leads, and you got to have somebody who wants to go out and close. But finding project, product, and marketing managers has proven for many Israeli companies to be a challenge, especially coming across the water. Not so much the bilingual issue, but the understanding of where marketing and product management and project management are going. You can find very smart people, but most of them come from the very technical side, and they lack a lot of the human side and the softer side, which as products become, whether it's a prosumer product, a business-to-business product, consumer product, there's a need for that middle stage of being able to interpret. And I don't mean the technical writer, but actually a business writer.
And the solution, Andy?
The solution is go out and recruit and show them and also work with them while they're still in college. Take them while they're in there, bring them in, nurture them, and find the best and the brightest, and show them that there's more than just being on the engineering side of the fence.
Good, so let's seek some help here. Are there any HR, placement firms, recruiters, headhunters in the audience? Can you please stand up? Give us your name and then your business card so everybody else who is interested. What's that again? Bob with Seaport Partners. Everybody's welcome to approach Bob later on, ask for business cards. He's going to help you recruit your next product manager, sales manager, or CEO for that purpose. Thank you. You're wonderful. All right, Sharon, please.
I would add that we've experienced, I think, every possible clash between an American company, an Israeli company, culture, hours, technology, everything. To us, what we look in people before talent even is flexibility. Guy, my partner, will only interview people for the job on a weekend. If you won't interview on a weekend, you're not flexible enough for us. There are no working hours at Babyfreshtv. You've got to know that you've got to take conference calls with Asia in the middle of the night, or US, or Israel. What we try to do, and we've been able to do it so far, is once a year, we either bring the people from the Israeli office to LA, or the people from LA to Israel, so they can meet face to face. We find that when people meet face to face, a lot of the problems are solved. A lot of the emotions get resolved. And we do a weekly conference call in which we all just talk about what we do, just so to make sure that we're all informed, and again, save on the clashes. So I would say talent is hard to find.
Can I ask you a delicate question? What time do you begin those weekly calls?
What time? We do them 9 a.m. Los Angeles time.
So that would be?
That would be 7 p.m. Israel time.
I would consider this inconsiderate. What about,
well,
yeah, how about doing it the other way around? Why not start at 8 o'clock a.m. in the morning in Israel?
You know what? I'm so happy you're not from my Israeli office, but thank you. But we do them at all hours. We work with Israel at all hours, and this weekly call is extremely important to us. And it gets people to work together, to understand, to solve issues, and really talent is hard to find. Flexible talent is even harder.
Good. Sharon, you moved from Israel over here to run the company's operations here? That was the purpose of your relocation?
Well, I actually came here for another job. I used to head the Israeli network. I don't know if any of you are aware of it, but there's a Hebrew-speaking TV network in the United States carried by Dish Network. It acquires all the Hebrew-speaking programming, repackages it, and sell it to Americans. After running that for 2 years, Guy, my partner, and I had this silly notion that it's really easy to launch a TV network. Boy, were we wrong. But you've got to dream to make it happen.
Good. Ariel, any challenges or everything goes smoothly?
Smoothly. I think that our biggest challenge was productizing a technology, and having the pond in between us. So having all the technologies sitting in Israel, and our main market is here. So it was, a long process of taking a look at what is that we can do with our technology, and then looking at several potential markets. And if we start at the highest level, then is looking at the homeland security, surveillance need, and then at media and the subsegments within media, and then making a decision with the technologies where to focus, and then what will be the key elements that are needed. And so in order to accomplish that, we used a lot of, distance skilling technologies, one of which would be Elal, actually bringing a lot of the technologies over and talking to potential users, identifying those users that will be willing to spend with us the time and contribute to the development of the end product. And then the other distance skilling technologies, of course, the internet, and gladly it is open 24 hours a day, and like you, we're all times of day communicating.
Thank you. There is a question over here.
Yeah, I got a question for Sharon and Ariel. Andy mentioned that you use Skype, and Sharon mentioned that you have once a year a trip face-to-face. Can you share best practices? How do you manage collaboration and leadership with these virtual teams? Do you use any platform like Teamwork or any insight that you can share with us?
What technology do you use to make it easier or to streamline processes across continents, geographies, and so on? Sharon.
I'm so sorry, I'm not the right person to answer. I'm this lame
Is the
executive
CEO of
that doesn't
Jaja still
understand,
here?
But we use, we send heavy files. We use FTP for all movie types that we send, and of course we use Skype often, and there's this great free conference call line that we use. I do not know the name. But if you've got suggestions, we're always looking to improve.
Any other ideas? By the way, yeah.
To work with Ringo from our agency perspective, we use Basecamp, which is a cloud-based collaboration platform, very easy to use. It's a wiki made simple. I would never use a wiki, it's too complicated. But I would use, for a cross-section of people, but we're using Basecamp. We're able to profile everything, keep everything up there, share files, run projects, keep milestones, build to-do lists, and not worry about the 10-hour time difference. So my staff in the agency is able to work with the Ringo staff in Jerusalem and New York, and everybody's able to look and see. They get notified, they get an email, they click on the link, they're in, they're working with the file. We use Skype for point-to-point communication, one-to-one. We use a platform called High Def Conferencing, which is owned by Citrix Online now, for a conference bridge. Everybody just clicks in through Skype. If they're not at a computer, they can dial in through local access numbers around the world. But the high def quality when everyone's calling in from online creates this in-a-room environment. And that in-a-room environment, you're more alert, you're more awake. You're not having a low-grade 8K telephone call that sounds like garbage from the free conference call systems where they're squeezing as many minutes as they can through a free pipe to make money. This is a professional grade service, but everybody hears one another. And then with the Basecamp atmosphere, the information's all there. So it's kind of like having a water cooler. And you're all talking around it or a conference room, but no one's moved. They stayed right where they are. That's one of the ways we've been working with Ringo at staying in touch and managing across 3 different general parts of the world, West Coast, East Coast, and Israel, or when people are in motion.
By the way, being a global VC...
Does that help?
Thank you. Being a global VC, we also have our weekly meetings that take place across at least 4 or 5 geographies, and we do this...
What time do you do them?
What's that?
What time do you do them?
Right, thank you for asking. We start at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the reason we do it at that time is that it starts at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's Connecticut, and then it is then 5:30 p.m. in Israel. And it is also 8 o'clock in the evening in India. That's the way we kind of balance our operations. Sometimes we do it the other way around, but we do this on a weekly basis. Everybody on the call, it's over video. We use video over IP. Sometimes the technology works, and then we can see everybody and not pay for the additional services. It is worthwhile if you do run an international operation and you do need to run operations across different geographies, different people, different departments. Communications and FaceTime is critical with your people. Any additional questions from the audience here? So let's talk a little bit about opportunities. We have discussed challenges throughout the day, but let's see if you could tell us what is the biggest opportunity that you believe that your company is facing, and how do you go about it, especially given today's economic crisis and the downturn of the global economy. What is the real opportunity that you are facing, and how do you go about achieving it? Mayor, please.
I think that one thing that happens in the current economy, and it's funny, when I think it was October and last year, and I talked to one of my VC friends, and I have a few, and I asked him how your company is doing. He said, well, I'm very, very lucky because all my company is actually going to benefit from the economic crisis. So I think there are some good things, and things are happening slower, but one of the challenges right now is that I think some of the devices are going to cost way lower and have lower costs, and there are going to be more population of them. And one of the challenges I think that we'd like to see, but it's also a big opportunity, is the fact that connected devices are getting into the house in a massive amount. I mean, yesterday I heard the CEO of Vizio talking about $600, $700 TVs, 42 inches, connected. So I think the connectivity of devices in the home is a huge opportunity. And for us as a small company, leveraging on that and getting into the core of the experience on that is going to be a huge challenge, but also an opportunity for the next, 12 months.
Good. Sharon?
We are, as being a programmer on the one hand and a content distributor on the other hand, are actually enjoying interesting opportunities. As a distributor, everybody wants to give us their content for free now because they understand we won't pay, and we get much more content for less. And as a programmer, there are so many new venues for us to reach our customers and deliver our content and capitalize on it in different ways, such as merchandising and licensing, that we find this an extremely exciting time.
Ariel?
I think that our biggest opportunity is the splintering of media and the ever-increasing process of customization of channels around our specific needs, all of which means that we have smaller crowds with the same level of requirements, which also include live transmissions, and this is where we play. So while serving traditional media and helping them cutting cost of their uplink transmission, also serving the emerging new media.
And Andy?
The balkanization of operating systems is really hurting some companies. So I mean, I have a Symbian phone that has a certain subset of operations. I have a different Symbian phone from Nokia that doesn't work exactly like that, which requires different types of programming to ensure that the application works. There's a RIM BlackBerry. That's a totally different platform, taking advantage of Java applications, and we have to work on all the Java, on a lot of the Java phones. We work on many of them, hundreds of them, but still it requires different customization, different programming. And then there's something that I think a few of them exist around the country, around the world now, that came out of Cupertino called the iPhone, and you have to program for that, and you add in Android, and then what Sony Ericsson's doing. So the balkanization of all these different operating systems and all these different standards and all these different ways to program, while it's creating a lot of work for capable programmers around the world who can have a direct understanding, which is a necessity, but for startups, it's a significant weight around our shoulders. So there's an opportunity out there for the smart development company or the engineering type firms who understand how to attack these problems and work with the startups, and that's where the opportunities are. And for companies, it means finding the right talent in order to solve these problems quickly and easily. Because candidly, with 6 or 8 or 10 operating systems, it's very hard to be all things to all people.
Good, so we do face many interesting opportunities. Let's just check our general mood here. How many of you believe that the worst is over? I mean, economy-wise. How many of you believe that the worst is still lying ahead of us? Things will, wow, that's pretty scary. What's your name? Yeah. Tell us how bad this is still going to be. Wait, good for you. A big applause here for... No, you sold your company, right? You deserve a big applause. All right, so why this is going to become even worse than it is, or it was? Okay, that's in terms of planning and so on. Anybody else as to why this is already over and we are just expecting very optimistic times? Nobody is willing to place a real bet here. All right, please. Good. Thank you for that wake-up call. Still, we are talking about startups and venture capital investments, and I want to get back to you because we've heard some level of criticism here about venture capitalists, which I must say that I share to a certain extent. But let me ask you, why do you think that your companies, those of you who have been funded, I think that you have not been funded by a, you have? No, okay, so that's another question to you. But Andy and Ariel, why do you think that your companies have been able to secure funding from venture capitalists who, as we heard earlier on today, are risk-averse, never invest in the right companies, keep their money to themselves, never respond to entrepreneurs, never give back a positive or negative answer or any answer at all? Why is it that your companies got funded?
VC with Israeli Seed. He's had a series of hits with Answers.com.
Okay, so we are looking for practical advice here. So one advice is if your CEO was a partner with a venture capital firm, it makes life easier.
Well, it helps with understanding how the game is played. It helps with understanding having a network and having the resources out there to rely on to get the right meetings with the right money. A lot of times money comes from various sources, isn't always smart. And a lot of energy is spent by startup companies chasing money that may not necessarily be smart money for you for an investment. So having a CEO or a senior level executive who has venture experience is likely more valuable to the company than having a venture partner with company experience.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. So what you're saying is that it was not necessarily the best idea, it was the right person who raised money for your company.
It's always a relationship business at the end of the day, and having the right person. A good idea, there's 1,000 good ideas every second, and two people likely have the same idea at the same time. The right person knows how to get to the right sources for money. The wrong person spends a lot of time and energy chasing their tail trying to find it. So having someone like a John or someone else in that capacity who understands what a term sheet's supposed to look like and what the presentation is supposed to be and how to talk to somebody and how to know whether you're talking to the right partner at all. Because a lot of times you can talk to a partner who's not the right person and you're wasting two people's time or more.
How many rounds of financing has Vringa gone through?
Two. We've done our A and a B.
And the latest one was when?
The A fund was Israeli Seed and other VCs, and then the second round was Warburg.
And when was that?
We closed Warburg about a year ago.
Okay. Give us a frank, sincere answer here. So do you feel that if you have to raise more money, and I assume that you will have to raise money sometime over the next, say, 12 months, do you feel that the John Medved factor will work again, or will you need some additional proof points? Will you need additional stuff going on for the company in order for you to be able to raise money, especially given these times?
It's going to vary based on where the market goes and how much more growth is needed, either on the technology side, the marketing side, the product development side, et cetera. There's different types of money that can come in. There's also strategic money that can come in now that carriers are looking to fatten what goes through the pipe. Now that you're going to see carriers like here in the U.S., AT&T is going to open up the pipe by spending $11 billion. Strategic money also starts to come along because now you have to start seeing payback. Don't forget, this is paying for the AT&T build-out. That's $70 and $45 a month. But then something has to come through the pipe in order to justify what was just spent. So strategic money comes along, which is not necessarily good for the VC market, but in a way it is, because now the companies get longer run rate with less burn on the dollars and less required follow-on investment.
So my takeaways from your advice here is you have to have an idea that makes sense, but you need the right people to execute to that idea and definitely to raise money.
At the end of the day, you have.
By the way, stop there for a second. We are seeing this slide already for the second time. This is the live view machine. Where, Ariel?
This is in China, in Beijing, actually, during the Olympics, actually.
Yeah, you deserve an applause for that. This is from Beijing, right? Participating in the Olympics last year, transmitting live for which network?
Which network in?
Which network in Beijing?
That was NBC, yes.
That was NBC. All right. Tell us why you were able to raise money.
So, in fact, in our particular case, you can probably answer this better, but but I'll give you my.
Give me some comfort level here.
Yes. So I think we were able to provide comfort on 3 different dimensions. The first one, as we were able to draw a vision of the market that we are after, and we were able to show that there is a significant potential for what we are talking about. So that was one dimension. The second one was we were able to prove that from a technological point of view, it's a manageable risk that we can actually accomplish what we wanted to do. And the third dimension was about an execution path. And so I think that at that point in time, it was primarily about showing to you guys that we have a management team and people that have done things before and can bring us to the destination.
Good. And Sharon, you have not taken money from VCs. Should I take this personally?
Well, we've been fortunate enough not to take money from VCs. Although we have taken money from.
Mayor is pointing out the fact that Sharon said we have been fortunate not to need money from VCs. Go ahead.
Our investors are very strategic investors, all relevant to the business, and have been extremely helpful. And that also helped us in what Andy mentioned as opening doors for us. It's great to have an idea, and it's also great to get funding, but one leads to another, and we got funding based on milestones, based on achieving deals. And the way we did this is we did a lot of legwork, but we always brought in the right people. So I can give an example which is relevant to my world. We brought on very early on as a vice chairman Bill Burke. Bill Burke is a wonderful guy who used to run a network for Time Warner, but he's also the brother of Steve Burke, who is the president of Comcast. That opened a lot of doors for us and encouraged investors to invest in us. So it's a combination of having a good idea, having the right people, and then finding people who also believe in your idea. And our investors are, just if anybody's interested, New Regency, which is the largest movie independent studio in Los Angeles, and I think in the country. Recently did Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Fight Club, and Alvin and the Chipmunks. And Cardone, which is publicly traded on the Israeli and European stock market, Belco Capital, which is a private fund, and recently we're fortunate enough to have Lindsay Gardner join us.
Great, thank you. May just a couple of tips from your vast, broad experience about VCs and raising money from VCs. Give us a couple of advice that were not heard yet.
Maybe I can use it myself. I think one of the things that is good with VCs is the reality check. Some of them, you have to pitch to someone who never heard you before, and sometimes take it as it is. Sometimes maybe your pitch is not good enough. Sometimes maybe your story is not good enough. It doesn't have to be the entire story. It might be just pieces of the story that you want to improve. It might be your business model. It might be your partnerships. It might be the milestone you are on now. From my experience, and again, it's not too long, but I think in some cases a combination of a strategic and a VC might be very good. Might be very helpful.
Good. How many of you in the audience are planning to raise money from VCs, say, over the next 2-3 years? Don't be shy. Just a few of you. How many of you tried in the past but will never do this again? All right. There is still some hope there. So we really have to wrap up here, but the revolution, the digital revolution, is still ongoing and is taking place and unfolding in front of us. And I think that the one takeaway that we should all take with us is great companies are still being developed, are still being funded, and are still changing the world, and will continue to change the world, which is going to look totally different when we meet 1, 2, 3, and 5 years from now in this conference, right? Next year and years to follow. Thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you, Sharona.
Thank you very much, Ishar. Not only are there going to be more deals, but our mantra here is your next deal is here.